Welcome into the install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. Week 13 is what we are in the middle of, or having just wrapped up week 13, I should say. Season getting shorter and shorter for some, Greg, and some interesting things to talk about from this Titans-Colts game. One of the weirdest games I've ever covered, to be completely honest with you. This thing was all over the place. I don't know how much of you got to watch beyond tape study, but this was a game of back and forth for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, it was a really tough loss for Tennessee.
Yeah,
because in many ways, I think they outplayed Indianapolis. I just don't have enough time in my life to be a special teams guy, so I know that was essentially the reason that they lost.
Well, they canned somebody here this week because of it, Greg. So if you got some time, if you want to take special teams up, we got
yeah, I just don't have time in my life for that. But I mean, obviously, I saw all the highlights of that, and it's a part of the game, and it's the reason they lost, and it goes in the L column. But I thought there were some good things in this game, and some things to obviously it's the NFL, so we're not talking about moral victories. But look, this is a team that I think people understand is not quite ready for prime time right now. So you're looking for all the positives you can find as you hope that this team can grow in the right direction. And I thought there were some meaningful positives to take away from this game.
Well, I'm glad that you felt that way because I came out of it, Greg, being encouraged by how hard they played, right? Like there was never any doubt that they weren't going to fight and lost it in overtime the way that they did. And I think as we talk about baby steps for this team right now, those are the kind of things that you're looking for. And Will Levis was a huge part of it. He again was so critical of himself immediately afterwards, Greg. He said it was his worst performance as a Titan. And we were just kind of looking around and be like, man, I know you had 4 consecutive 3-and-out drives, but that didn't feel like that was a Will Levis problem throughout the course of the game.
No, and I'm sure in his mind, again, because I don't know all the reading progressions and how each play is mapped out. There's obvious ones which I do know, but I know that quarterbacks are given often 2 plays. They're given the ability to make adjustments. Those are things that we can't possibly know. But overall, I didn't think maybe he viewed it as his worst game. Third down needs to get a lot better for this team, but he's not the only reason for that. I mean, he's had 64 third down dropbacks since he's been playing, and he's been sacked on 8 of them. And they've not been very good on third down. Only 14 of the 64 dropbacks on third down has resulted in a first down. That's not going to get it done in the league, but that's not solely on him, as you and I both know. But I think, here's how I would answer this question about Will Levis. We can nitpick. We can talk about a lot of things. But I think, and this is not an X and O comment, but I think people who are big Titans fans, and hopefully they're listening to us, I can't imagine that you can come away from watching Will Levis and the Titans and say Will Levis doesn't belong as an NFL quarterback. He looks like he belongs as an NFL quarterback, which again is not to say that there's not many areas to improve, but he's not overmatched. He doesn't look like he's out of control or playing fast or hurried. He looks like an NFL quarterback. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, no, 100%. And I think, as we talk about the incremental places that he's improving, Greg, there's some of the stuff he's not. Nobody plays the position perfectly in live action reps, save maybe Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes here or there. But what I see from him is his recognition in real time when he misses an opportunity, how quickly he's able to articulate that to us after the fact, after they've shown him the mistakes that he's made, and the fact that like they lose games quite often around here, but that he's not losing them games as a result of being a rookie quarterback.
No.
Whether that's because they've not put him in that position or because, of his own volition there, I think that there's a lot of stuff to really be encouraged by. And yeah, maybe you don't want him to run on that fourth down and get helicoptered that way, or force a fumble from the defender who I thought made an interception. They ended up calling it a fumble anyway, but like he gives them a spark on top of being a legitimately better option at quarterback than that they absolutely need right now.
And then there's some plays that always stand out, some throws, I mean, I thought, on that second quarter touchdown drive, but when he hit Hopkins for 27 yards, that got them down to, I guess, in the red zone, I mean, that's just a really good throw. I mean, he hit his fifth step, he planted, he transferred his weight, he drove the bang eight to Hopkins. I mean, really good anticipation, ball placement. There's a lot to like about Levis. And we still have to remember that he's playing behind an offensive line, particularly at the tackle position, which, there were bad snaps again by both Duncan and Radens. It was, I would say, overall a little better this week. But given that he's under duress a lot, because I made a note watching the tape that there were third down snaps in which Levis could not get to the more intermediate throws that were there due to pressure. Yeah. And I mentioned one, there was 3rd and 10 late in the third quarter. Hopkins was wide open on a corner route, but front side pressure from Ray versus Radens forced Levis to throw the check down to Spears for 6 yards, and it was 3rd and 10, so they had a punt. But, if he was able to, wait for another half a beat, he would have had Hopkins wide open on the corner route. Those are little things. It doesn't seem like much watching a game, particularly on a play like that, which turned out to be a completion. And people might automatically think, well, why is he throwing the check down? He's throwing the check down because if he waited another fraction, he would have gotten drilled in his front side. So there's plays like that matter. The 3-yard touchdown, late, I guess in the fourth quarter was really good. I mean, there's a lot of positives here, and you and I both know that it all starts with the quarterback. If you don't feel like you have one, it's tough to get excited. Again, the sample size is not quite large enough to say, hey, we know for sure, but I don't think there's anything about the way in which he's played that says this guy can't play.
No, of all the things, there's a couple of things to like about this rookie draft class so far. And Greg, they're getting a ton of experience out the gate. I mean, they've started, Duncan, Skoronski, Spears, Wiley, who won't be available to them on Monday Night Football. And then, of course, Levis. Like, these dudes are getting a lot of opportunities, if nothing else right now, to determine, how much of a part of the future of this thing that they can be. And Will Levis, obviously a critical part of that.
And how quick did Spears look? Unfortunately, when Henry went out, I guess we don't know anything about his status, as you and I are talking.
He's not in concussion protocol, so right now he's on track to play. I know.
Okay.
He wasn't officially placed in the protocol. He was evaluated for concussion, but Derek, he didn't practice today, but Derek's not in the protocol.
Oh, so then he's going to, I mean, he has an extra day too, so he'll be good to go.
Yeah, it's trending in that direction.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought Spears looked really quick. And he's going to be a good player too. So you're right, a lot of rookies. And defensively, look, we saw what happened on special teams. I thought defensively there were a few individual plays, obviously, that were problematic, obviously. Right. But I thought overall they played pretty well on defense.
No, Greg, they're only allowing 20 points per game. Like, I know there's the explosive plays are some of them, like the timing is deeply unfortunate, like the 55-yarder to Pierce on the second to last play after Murphy Bunting gets the illegal contact penalty.
Yeah.
It's just, it's he got beat. It's a tough scene, and they end up giving up a touchdown because Christian Fulton pulls a hammy on the same play. His availability is in question for Monday Night Football against Miami.
Which play did he pull a hammy?
He just went down on the play, the same play that Murphy Bunting had.
Right, correct. Yeah, the last play. And that's why Avery was in the game, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the last play, that's why Avery was in the game, and that's who gave up the touchdown to Pittman, at least from
our vantage. Yeah, I wouldn't say he gave it up. I thought that was a beautifully designed play, which is, by the way, similar to the Hopkins 3-yard touchdown. It might have been the same play, but yeah, I mean, obviously they gave up the Pierce 36-yard TD to end the first possession and the Pierce 55-yarder, which set up the winning touchdown. Those were individual plays, but I'd say overall, I thought this defense played pretty well in this game. They did not give up much in the run game at all. What's Jeffrey Simmons' status?
Out.
They'll be out Monday for sure.
He's out for a couple of weeks, sounds like.
Okay. What is the injury? Knee?
A knee injury. That's as much as they were willing to disclose. It's not been reported. Okay. Anything. Nothing structural. Nothing that requires surgery.
So it's not season ending.
Not season ending. They've got 5 games left. He's $100 million player. I'm sure he wants to play whenever he gets back out there. But yeah, right now, Jeff is out.
Okay.
So quickly, Greg, before we come back to the defense, because I think that's an interesting point for Titans fans to hear. They're very frustrated. They are expressing, a lot of them, their frustrations with their defense right now. I want to come back to Spears and just kind of the idea of Henry and Spears right now and the current state of the offensive line and what it is that they're trying to get accomplished as an offense. Is there a case to be made for Tyjae Spears to not maybe not just out snap Derrick Henry sometimes, but to be given the opportunity to try and do a little more, given that he is a 3-down running back here, and they're just having so much harder of a time getting Derrick in positions where they can use him effectively.
Well, they're totally different backs. And, you
Right.
know, again, if you just look at their traits and their skill sets, one could make the argument that behind this O-line, that Spears could be a little more effective for this reason. Spears has great lateral agility and quickness, and he is able to make people miss if they penetrate. He's able to make people miss at the first level. Whereas Henry is a runway back. Henry gets the ball and runs downhill. He's not shifty, you know, as soon as he gets the ball. He needs a runway. And so you could make the argument that, you know, given this particular offensive line at the moment, that Spears, you know, should get more snaps just in the base run game. I'm not talking about what, you know, 21 pony personnel,
Right,
you know,
right.
and all the other stuff. I'm just talking about lining up as an I back or as a shotgun back and just getting normal run game snaps. Because they're totally different players.
Yeah, it's something that we've been pondering or wondering about here locally, because if for no other reason, like you said, Spears is, it's almost I think I've only seen it happen once where the first defender makes the tackle on him in Jacksonville. I don't think it's happened a ton of times this season. He's just a smaller target, a shifty target, one that's more difficult to bring down right now.
He's more shifty and elusive. Derrick, you know, that was one reason why, and I'll be the first to admit I fell into that category, and obviously I was wrong, but it's one reason why a lot of people didn't think Henry could end up being a true foundation back in the league, which clearly he became at a very high level. But you know, Henry is kind of straight line-ish. He's not shifty and elusive in a strict sense. You know, Spears is.
Yeah, I argued against the Derrick Henry second contract, Greg, before he was the only running back that was worth the second contract.
Yeah,
So,
you know, and we'll see how it all plays out as we go forward. I mean, you know, it's very possible, and again, I don't have inside information, but it's very possible that Henry might not be a Titan next year. We don't know how all this will play out.
Trending in that direction, but that's a podcast for another day.
Correct.
So we pivot to the Miami Dolphins, obviously Monday Night Football. Right now, I think the line has been bet down a little bit. It opened up at 14.5 in favor of Miami at home. Right now it's 13. Titans going in undermanned, certainly without Jeffrey Simmons. This is a tough offense to stop, but just the creativity of the scheme and the speed that the Dolphins have on offense, Greg, is so much fun to watch, and it's really a joy to watch Mike McDaniel work.
Yeah, and they got a receiver, Hill. I think he's fast, by the way. Just
okay.
No. You know.
I think the Titan secondary are going to find out.
Yeah.
Football. It's probably going to be tough.
Well, let's get into the kinds of things they do.
Yes.
You know, obviously you have to deal with the speed, and you cannot. It's difficult to play man coverage, and you certainly can't play man coverage without someone over the top. As the Commanders, you know, which I quite frankly didn't understand. On the 78-yard touchdown, it was their only snap of cover one in the game, and it came on the first possession. And they played man coverage to empty, and for whatever reason, they had the post safety cheated to the Twins side, and Hill was number 2 to the trip side. So they had no one over the top of their slot corner, Martin, who's a rookie out of Illinois. So they basically said to the slot corner rookie, well, you're going to have to cover him, and there's no help over the top.
Go get him, bud.
And of course, is he just ran by Martin, and it was a 78-yard touchdown. But let's talk about what they do. First of all, they're a motion offense. No team motions more than the Dolphins in the entire league, and they're phenomenal with motion. And it's multiple motions. It's not just one thing. So you have got to really you have to have a plan for all that, okay? Because that's who they are. That's what they do. The other thing is that empty formations are a part of what they do. So you have to have a plan for that. You know, these are all things you have to work on during the week. You can't be surprised by this, okay? I mean, keep in mind that off motion through 12 games, that Tua has thrown 251 balls off motion, okay? Yeah. So that's what they do. So they give you a lot of eye candy, but it also means something. In other words, it's not, you hear the term window dressing. It's not window dressing, but it's eye candy because it forces the defense to react to things because they see a lot going on. And what that does when there's a lot of motion, it kind of shrinks your defensive menu a bit. You can't get to all your calls because you can't have 20 different calls, that all happen in the space of 5 seconds when you see motion. So it shrinks your defensive menu. Now, the key to playing this offense is you must disrupt the timing between Tua and the receivers. You must do everything you can to take away the first window throws. That's where Tua is absolutely at his best. That's his game. He's the best in the NFL, hitting his back foot and throwing with precise timing and high-level anticipation on in-breaking routes. He's a first window passer. They work between the numbers, and of course, they do work vertically when they get that opportunity with the speed that they have. But therefore, coverage becomes more important than pressure in normal down and distance situations, because you're not going to get there because the ball gets out too quick, because it's all timing and rhythm based, and the ball gets out too quick.
Yeah.
So you're not going to win with pressure. So you have to win and disrupt with coverage. And it's hard. It's, it's not easy. Believe me, I'm not saying it's easy.
No, they're the number one team in the AFC for a reason. They're really good at this.
Right. But, you have to also have some kind of rotation on the back end just to create some doubt into his mind. So when he hits that back foot, maybe he just feels like, it's not quite there. And you get him to, just to hold it. And then ideally, that's when your pressure becomes a factor. If you just get him to hold it for that extra beat, okay? And it has to be with a 4-man D line. It's hard to blitz. You don't want to leave your corners one-on-one. So, they're not an easy team to play against, clearly.
They are the definition of a matchup problem. How much have you seen Tua kind of, we've dispelled the notion or the negative connotation around system quarterback, Greg. How much have you seen Tua grow within the system that he's operating in?
Well, first of all, everybody's a system quarterback.
Right.
Because everybody runs the system that they're taught. I think when people say that, it has probably a negative connotation to it because people think, oh, well, all he does is execute a system. That the people who say that have no sense of the process involved in playing the position, Buck. They just see the games on Sunday. And, so you see this a lot with Brock Purdy too. He's got good players around him. Okay, well, if that's the case, then I guess we should just pull Joe Montana, Kurt Warner, those guys out of the Hall of Fame because all they did was have good players around them. So, you and I could have obviously been great, which is such garbage, of course, because there's a whole process to playing the quarterback position that starts during the week. And when you see guys execute at a high level on Sunday, you know how hard that is? I mean, it starts all through the week. The process of playing quarterback. Tua is really good at the process. Now, in all honesty, if you can get him to hold the ball, he's not necessarily a second reaction player. He does not have a big arm. He's not a guy that's going to run around. Can he do it once in a while? Of course, everybody can, once in a while. But his game is not built on running around and making plays. So when all's said and done, because he doesn't have the big arm, you have to get him to stay in the pocket longer and have to sit on his back foot, where he's not going to be as efficient. He's just because he's not that guy. Everything is timing rhythm based. So, I think that McDaniel understands at a really high level what Tua is and what Tua isn't. And obviously, when it works and they can play to what Tua is, they look really, really good.
Yeah. On the defensive side of the ball, Vic Fangio, been around the league for a long, long time in a variety of different roles. Now is the Dolphins defensive coordinator. They've got some good horses up front. Certainly, they've got some good players in the back end, adding Jalen Ramsey, who obviously Middle Tennessee is intimately familiar with. What are some tendencies that you're seeing from them on tape? What do you like about what they're doing as a defense?
Yeah, I mean, they don't play a ton of man, even with Ramsey. I mean, that's just the way it, that they play. They're going to lose Jerome Baker, I think, for a couple of weeks. He's a really good linebacker. He's a fast linebacker. And obviously Jalen Phillips is gone, and I really like him a lot as a player. So their defense it's grown a bit as the years gone on, but it hasn't been great. But the thing is, they got two really good corners. And even though they don't play a ton of man, I mean, I think when I watch Ramsey, and don't forget, it'll be interesting to see if they choose to play more man, because as I was watching the Titans offensive tape, what kept popping into my head was the one-on-one matchups that Hopkins and Ramsey had when Hopkins was in Houston and Ramsey was in Jacksonville, where they had a lot of one-on-one matchups, and they were fun to watch because they're two guys who like to talk a lot, and they're physical, and they're competitive, and they're swagger guys, and that's just part of the game to those guys. So it wouldn't surprise me if Ramsey goes to Fangio and says, I want to play some one-on-one against Hopkins this week. So you might well see that. But for the most part, they're not built on playing man coverage foundationally. So, we'll see. But this will be an interesting matchup. Now, the one guy who has played really well for them throughout the year, and he's used in multiple ways, and with Phillips hurt, he gets more snaps now, is Van Ginkel. He's kind of a really interesting player for them. He comes out of Wisconsin. He can play off the ball. He can rush the quarterback on the ball. He's just a really solid player.
Yeah, he had a huge performance for them.
He had that interception last week that just looked great.
Yeah, this past week, absolutely. The NFL matchup show is how you prepare yourself for each week of the NFL season. Week 14 upcoming. I know Greg was dying to put the Patriots on TV this week, but unfortunately they're on Thursday Night Football, so they will not be in the NFL matchup.
Yeah, that's I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't know how much of that game I'm going to be watching tomorrow night.
Greg, I am comfortable with the fact that I plan on I don't anticipate finishing that game. I'll start it. I don't know if I'll finish it. We'll see.
I don't know. I love football, but it's also college hoop season. It's NBA season. I don't know.
Yeah, the Patriots offense, you're really going to love it right now to watch the Patriots on offense. But anyway, there's a bunch of good games on the NFL matchup show that I am certain will be featured. Chief among them, Eagles and Cowboys.
Oh, yeah,
there's no way that's not a full segment.
That's a full segment game in part 4. That's a fascinating matchup. So there's a lot there. The Cowboys offensively have been playing really, really good football. The Eagles have not. And, one thing that maybe people don't realize about the Eagles is last year they were built on their pass rush on the defensive side of the ball. They led the NFL in sacks. They led the NFL in third down sacks. This year, they have the fewest third down sacks of any team in the league, and they are the worst third down defense in the league in terms of conversion rate. So, those two things are not good signs. And, obviously everybody focuses on the offense, and that offense has not been playing very well either for many different reasons, too many to enumerate now. But defensively, what made them great a year ago has not been the case this year.
Is this the best you've seen Dak Prescott play?
He's been in the league quite a while, and he's had moments, so that's a hard question to answer, but he's playing at a really high level. Really high level, right?
He so much fun to watch between him and Geno Smith on Thursday Night Football last.
That was a good game. That was a fun game.
It was better than I anticipate Pat's Steelers is going to be. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Speaking of great games, did you watch Alabama, Georgia?
Oh my God, I could not take my eyes off of it. I thought for sure Georgia was going to find a way to squeak into the three-peat, or at least the conversation.
Yeah, that was a great game, really fun game.
Oh, are you just watching college football? You're always watching for players, I guess, Greg.
Yeah, I'm not doing that yet. When I watch the game on Saturday, I'm not sitting there taking notes, but I like college football a lot.
What do you make of Jalen Milroe, just quickly?
He, obviously he's a big physical guy. I don't think he's a great thrower at this point. I can't tell you how well he sees things, because I know he gets stuck a lot in the pocket. And again, until I would see tape, I don't know the answer to that, because you don't know that watching the games. You don't know if he's not seeing it. You don't know if guys are open and the ball should be out. You don't know that. And the people who say they know that from TV, they can't know that. Obviously, he's a great athlete and he can run. He's a fast athlete, but he'll be back. So he's got another year. Yeah. He's not coming out.
No, I just been curious to watch him progress.
The kid I loved last summer on tape, and he was great this year, and I can't wait to watch him, was Daniels from LSU.
Jayden Daniels is the most electrifying player in college football.
Last summer. No one talked about him going into this year, with the big names. And now after this year, obviously he's being talked about, but that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, impossible to ignore, and certainly if it wasn't for that defense, they would probably be in a better position to try and get him a Heisman. Anyway, the rare college football segment in the middle of
Yeah,
week
yeah. Well, we'll
17.
get to that. We'll be getting to that.
We
Yeah.
will have time. The draft is closing in on me, Greg. At 4-8, the draft is closing in on me by the day. But anyway, that's going to do it for us this afternoon. Check out Greg on the NFL Matchup Show Saturday and Sunday mornings. You can get it on demand on ESPN Plus. It's the best way to prepare yourself for another week of football. My friend, I appreciate your insights and your time as always. Thank you for it.
All right, Buck. Appreciate it. Thanks.